Diet and food. Both four-letter words, but I don't think they're all that bad. I mean, I love food, and diet, it's just not that scary. It's our relationship with food that matters the most. And the most effective approach to improving health or losing weight is to help you find your way with food and to create a healthy plan that works for your lifestyle. If you type weight loss in the search bar of the books department on Amazon.com, you'll find 30,000 results. I mean, keto, paleo, intermittent fasting, the list goes on and on. Which one is the right one? Well, that depends on you and what works for your lifestyle and your health. I mean, the best diet in the world is the one that you don't know you're on. Eating for optimum health and vitality can't be a constant chore, or it just won't work. In a one-on-one counseling situation, ask people what steps that they think they can take to facilitate the changes that they're looking for. And then I help them create commitment statements and identify areas where they feel confident they can make progress. This is based on the spirit of motivational interviewing, which is a very effective style of counseling that encourages the individual to identify and then state specific and achievable goals that they feel confident in reaching. You need to own the plan. What we don't want to do is impose our goals on anyone else. I mean, firstly, it's wrong. My goals are mine and yours are yours. And secondly, it doesn't work. Psychological reactance is the technical term for pushback. I mean, no one likes being told what to do. Even if we agree with what we're being told, we tend to do the exact opposite. So what we're going to do is to share our understanding of how to create a diet that can be modified to meet the various challenges that our different lifestyles present. You know, it's now, before we get into the technical approach, I need to stress that this has to work for you. As you take the information and the examples, you have to be confident in your ability to make it work. You know, as we work through the meal planning and you prepare a meal that fits into your lifestyle, it's critical to your success to continually ask yourself, how confident am I in taking this action? I mean, how sure am I that I will actually prepare this lunch and take it to work and eat it? The foundation of the Bravo program for weight loss and physical change is helping you strengthen and maintain your motivation for change while improving your skills and abilities in the areas of personal change, exercise, and diet. Our initial exercise program is based on big compound movements like squats and deadlifts, vital exercises that when done correctly, well, they work. And our approach to diet is based on calorie control. Regardless of what style or approach you take, the laws of thermodynamics don't change. If you don't consume less than you burn, your BMI, which is your body mass index, well, it won't change. Now, it's unfortunate, but when it comes to dieting and altering our body composition, the simple equation of eating less and burning more, well, it's not so simple. Our bodies are stubborn. They dislike change, and when we do manage to lose some body fat, those shrinking fat cells start screaming. They turn up the appetite and they turn down the furnace. So it's important to understand and to embrace the idea that we need to take a dynamic, flexible approach that takes advantage of both psychology and physiology. My approach to dieting has three major components: calories, which is the actual amount of stored energy; mindfulness, which is our relationship with food; and macronutrient hormonal control, which is your proteins, your carbs, your fats. Now, calorie control is the main goal in changing our body composition. If your goal is to lose weight and change your shape, then the energy stored in our adipose tissue, which is our fat cells, well, it has to be consumed. Those love handles are essentially fuel for times of famine, and if I want to see less of them, well, then I have to burn them up. Now, You may have heard in the past, you just have to treat food like fuel. I disagree. As I mentioned at the start, I happen to like food. In fact, I love food. It's life. It's at the base of our physical health, our social world, family dinners, holidays. I mean, you name it, it involves food. And this is why the cornerstone of our program is about understanding your sources of influence, those personal, social, and environmental influences. Permanent weight loss is about our relationship with food, our mindfulness, and our ability to first recognize what's motivating us, and then to create habits that can move us towards our goal. As I said earlier, our bodies resist change. I mean, as we lose body fat, our metabolism can slow and our appetite can go up. We have an active hormonal response to fat loss built into us. Now, I'm sure that this was useful 200 years ago, but if you combine this survival mechanism from the past with our modern world of convenience, it's easy to see how weight loss can be so challenging. You know? Now, the keys to combating our stubborn, mood-altering hormones and making changes that last is to be mindful of both the food we consume and the way we consume it. As well as using macronutrient ratios to influence our hormones and our satiety. And our satiety is that sensation of fullness and appetite control. Let's start with calories. The base of our diet preparation begins with understanding calories. That means weighing and measuring. There are plenty of programs that promise you no counting calories. Then they tell you portion control, portions based on the size of your hand or your fist, or that you need to purchase some crazy color-coded containers that your food goes in. I mean, no matter what you call it, it's portion control, calorie counting, and calorie management. Now, a big caveat. Your health and wellness are our foremost concern, both physically and mentally. Tools for change are just that. They are tools to assist in an effort to help you reach your goals. A hammer can be used to build a beautiful house, or it can be used as a deadly weapon. And counting calories, well, it can be a real eye-opener, information that helps you make a better choice. Or it can become an obsessive exercise in futility. And it's definitely not something you need to do for long. Well, and it's certainly not as complicated as when I first started with Corinne T. Netzer's book of calorie counts, Excel spreadsheets, my measuring spoons, cups, and my springy little food scale. Today, there are tons of online service providers that track and measure and log your food data. I've used MyFitnessPal, both the paid and the free versions, and it's as good as any. I mean, I strongly recommend you do a quick search and find one that works for you. Now, we've talked a lot about personal motivation with regards to our relationship to food. And this part of this module, this part of the program, this is where we talk about your personal ability. Your knowledge. You might find your eyes glaze a little, but this is important. So let's take a deep breath and get right into it. One of the first questions I get asked is, how many calories per day should I be eating to meet my goal? And this is where we start. We start with your BMR, which is your basal metabolic rate. It's your base rate, the calories required before activity. It's what you need to survive. It's just lying on the couch doing nothing. So how do I get this number? Well, there are some very sophisticated ways to arrive at it. It's based on muscle mass, your unique genetic makeup, your age. But for an average healthy individual, it's probably pretty close to 10 times your body weight. And again, that's before any activity of any kind. So using myself as an example, I weigh 250 pounds. I multiply that by 10 to get 2,500 calories per day. And this is probably pretty close to my actual BMR. Now, that's the absolute minimum to maintain me at my current weight. Any activity of any kind that burns calories, causes weight loss. So, which means So if I only eat 2,500 calories per day and I do some exercise, well, what that means is I'm going to burn some calories, and that's going to put me in a calorie deficit, which which is weight loss. I mean, it's not necessarily this simple, but let me explain. I can't stress this enough that all we really need is a starting point. A way to measure the change, the scale, the tape measure, maybe photos, and definitely our journal. And then we need to, based on the results we get, we adjust our activity level or our food. So let's get right into that. The weight loss process is dynamic. Your environments, your motivations, they change, which is what the formula addresses. For example, I'm personally much more active outdoors in the summertime than in the winter, which is when I like to get caught up on Netflix. Now back to your starting point. Looking at your activity level, how physical your job is, how much of the exercise component of the program you've chosen to do, we take that and we understand that we're all unique in our requirements. We start by taking our current body weight and multiplying it by somewhere between 10 and 15. This is where we use my food pyramid, my diet pyramid. And as I mentioned, there are three vital elements to my approach to dieting. There's calories, and this is the base of our pyramid. It's the most crucial part of any weight loss program. The next part of the pyramid is the mindfulness. This is meal frequency. It's our relationship with food and our approach to hunger, which is our motivation to eat. The final part of the pyramid is the hormonal control and the influence of the macronutrients, protein, carbohydrate, fat, and that's your PCF ratio. Back to calories. As I just explained, we need to know where to start. How many calories should I eat to lose weight? Or more specifically, body fat. So we're going to pick some easy numbers for illustration purposes and get started. A 200-pound man with a moderate activity level, let's say an office worker who golfs in the summer and skis in the winter, that's what we're going to use. Using our 10 to 15 times body weight guidelines, I'll assume 12 calories per pound. So 200 times 12 is 2,400 calories per day. Now, remember, this is a starting point. If you're too hungry to stay on track or you're not losing any weight at all, well, that number has to change. Now let's turn to mindfulness. This is your relationship with food and the understanding that hunger is our motivation to eat. In the past, meal frequency has been touted as a key to increasing metabolic rate. But really, this effect, if any, is not why we advocate 3 meals with snacks. Hunger, as I said, is our motivation to eat, and meal frequency improves our ability to manage our hunger. Meal frequency is about calorie control and personal motivation. Now, meal timing is also about maintaining motivation and control. You need to use your change tools, your journal, your calendar, to identify issues and eat to manage your hunger. I've said several times that for any program to work, it has to be about you. Now, I like to have a large breakfast and a large lunch and a smaller-ish dinner, I have at least one snack at work and one in the evening really close to bed because if I'm hungry, I can't sleep. And a restful sleep is critical to your health and your success in reaching your goals. Now, that's me, but let's take a look at another example. Lunch is at 12 p.m. Your work day ends at 4:30, and when you get home, you're hungry. If you're like me, dinner's sometime between 5:30 and 6:30, and this is the time that we make poor choices regarding food quality, and it's when we overconsume. When I was in construction, before I changed careers, I'd get home at 5. I'd be hungry because I hadn't eaten for 4.5 hours, and I'd warm 2 bagels in the microwave to make sure the butter melted. Dinner'd be in an hour, and even though I wasn't hungry anymore, I felt that social pressure of my family meal to eat was on my plate. Now, when I learned about food, how to read a label, and I started paying closer attention to my habits, I realized that my after work snack was somewhere around 800 calories. It was probably more than the dinner I'd eat an hour later. When it comes to controlling calories, discipline trumps willpower. If I'd have packed a small healthy snack, maybe some apple slices with peanut butter, something I knew to be 300 calories, and I ate that at 4 p.m., well, my motivation and my control would have been strengthened, and I would have easily eliminated 500 calories from my day. So here's a rule. It's okay to be a little peckish at times. You're on a diet. But don't get so hungry that you lose control. Identify the vital times in your schedule that might be a problem, and then this is where the notes section in your journal comes in. You write it down because it's information that can help you come up with a solution. Now, the numbers that we've just talked about, these are guidelines, and they will need to be adjusted throughout your journey. Food absorption rates, well, they don't always reflect the numbers in the nutrition label, and manufacturers, well, they're not always transparent in the labeling. But knowing that the process is dynamic, well, it doesn't really matter. We need a starting point that can then be adjusted depending on progress. So don't stress about precise numbers and weights. Just get close. Now, turning back to our example of the 200-pound man, we're going to look at calories and meal frequency. I divide the meals up into 600 calories. 3 times 600 is 1,800 calories, which leaves 300 calories for snacks. Now, 2 snacks, 300 calories each, and we're good. The next thing we're going to look at is protein, carbohydrate, and fat, the macronutrients. And we use the 4-4-9 method for our macronutrient ratios. And what that starts with the understanding that protein is equal to 4 calories per gram, carbohydrate is equal to 4 calories per gram, and fat is equal to 9 calories per gram. Now, the style of dieting and what we've talked about, personally, I'm a low-carb fan. But going back to our search on Amazon.com and those 30,000 diet and weight loss books for sale, there will undoubtedly be a multitude of titles stating that one macronutrient or another is the enemy. The problem is not protein, carbs, or fat. The problem is convenience. Michael Moss, in his book, Salt, Sugar, Fat, How the Food Giants Hooked Us, he brilliantly illustrates the engineering that is today's nutritional science. Modern, convenient food is high in salt, sugar, and fat, and it's been designed to appeal to our ancestral need for caloric density, back when survival depended on getting the biggest bang for our buck. Convenient processed foods hijack our homeostatic systems that regulate our body composition and maintain optimal health. They're not good for us. And a great example is potato chips, which I love, by the way, and I do choose to eat them on occasion, but just not very often. Today's society is a busy one, and time is a precious commodity. The rules and social norms around the family meal eaten together, well, those are changing. The food industry isn't necessarily malicious or intent on destroying our health. They're just meeting a consumer need with products that sell and produce the highest profits. It's the rules of their game. Unfortunately for us, the end product of that game, quick and easy convenience food, is not good for our health or our body composition. Now, regardless, this is the world that we live in, and our approach and our belief is that we need to creatively adapt our change plans to harmonize with our environment and be sustainable for the long term. In the short term, the potato diet works well, the bland liquid diet works, keto also works, but really for how long, Now, the macronutrients, fat and protein, are high in satiation. They provide a sense of fullness and they help curb our appetites. And if the goal is to reduce overall calories and enjoy the food and the world we live in, then we need to look at increasing our ratios of quality proteins and healthy fats while reducing carbohydrate, in particular processed carbohydrate. So now, an excellent starting point for a healthy adult is a PCF ratio of 40-30-30. This means that 40% of our total daily intake should come from protein, 30% should come from carbohydrate, and 30% should come from fat. Taking our 2,400 calorie per day, we multiply that times 0.4 to get 960 calories per day from protein. Now, food labels are in grams and not calories, but we know that protein has 4 calories per gram. So I divide the 960 calories by 4 calories per gram, and I get 240 grams per day from protein. Now, I do the exact same thing for carbs and fat. 2,400 calories times 0.3 to get 720 calories. I then divide that by 4 calories per gram, and I get 180 grams of carbohydrate. The ratio for fat and carbohydrate is the same, so I know that I need 720 calories per day from fat. I divide that by 9 calories per gram, and I get 80 grams of fat. Now, as I mentioned earlier, I'm a fan of low carb, and I do not believe that a calorie is a calorie. But there are so many variables with nutrition. I mean, it can be your religion, your belief systems, geography. Really, all of these things will dictate what you eat. So, without being insensitive to any of the variables that I just mentioned, we always recommend healthy food choices, fresh fruits, vegetables, meats, fish. Really, if it grew, walked, flew, or swam, it's probably okay. If it's manufactured in a plant somewhere in Southeast Asia, it's probably not so good for you. And this is where you define your relationship with food and make a plan that allows you to get the results you're looking for. I mean, out of those 30,000 titles on Amazon, there will be some amazing cookbooks and information that you can use in conjunction with the Bravo formula to build the perfect diet for you. Now, back to the app part. Using a product like MyFitnessPal has really changed how easy it is to plan and to come reasonably close to our example and guidelines of 40% protein, 30% carbohydrate, and 30% fat. Just remember, it's a guideline, you know? All you need to do is be close. With an app, we can create meals that work for us and then substitute ingredients or elements whenever we need to. And with a little planning, and we can create meals that are fairly convenient, lower in processed carbohydrate, and higher in healthy, satisfying fats and protein. And I'm going to see you in the next video, because what I'm going to do is I'm going to prepare one of those meals for you on paper so you can see the logic behind breakfast. See you in the next video.